So first off, I wanted to introduce, I'm going to tell a little story, but just so you know, one of the qualifications for leadership is that you cannot have a name of Tom, Dick, or Harry. So you guys have heard a lot of discussions today. I'm going to start out actually with just a personal story. And it's totally irrelevant to what we're talking about, but it's kind of funny. So my mom, who is an English teacher, had this kind of morbidly obese Welsh corgi named Chaucer. And when she was getting elderly, she developed a little memory issues, and so she had been living in California. I had her move out to Colorado, lived in an assisted living center. And she had this room on the third floor, beautiful view of the mountains and stuff. And after being there for about 6 months, she said, "Hey, Reg, you know, I would love to go up and see the ski slopes for a day." So I said, okay, Mom, that's fine, but you can't take Chaucer with you. It just won't work. You'll be wandering off and through the woods or whatever. She said, "I understand." So we went to a ski resort, just one of those beautiful Blue Jay Colorado days, beautiful sky. And she had a wonderful time just sitting in the lodge. I didn't lose her. Came back and went back up to her room. There's Chaucer. First time she'd left him alone in 6 months. So Chaucer's sitting there, by the door saying, "Mom, I got to do my business." And so she puts on the leash, one of these kind of zip line leashes, and we walk out down the hallway to the elevator. And just as we're getting to the elevator, she stops and says, "Hey, Reg, I want you to meet these people that work in the living center with me." And she introduces them to me. I've met them a few times before, as you can expect, but we're chatting. And as we're chatting, she kind of says, "So where's Chaucer?" So I look back, and there's the elevator door. And there's Chaucer walking through the elevator door. And the elevator doors are closing. And the doors close, and the elevator starts going down. And there's the doling out of the line from this, kind of leash handle, and starts tugging on me, and the leash, goes out of my hand and lodges in the door. I'm going, "Oh, crap." So I look around to the staff there, and I say, "Does anyone have scissors, a knife, anything like that?" And so one of them finally, after what seems like an eternity, says, "Yeah, I got some scissors." So she grabs some scissors. I run over to the elevator door, and I cut the leash, right? And so what do? You keep on pushing the call button, right? Which, of course, doesn't do any good. But finally, after an eternity, the elevator comes up, the doors open. There's pee on the ground, but no Chaucer. So my mom and I look at each other like, well, what do we do now? So we take the elevator down, and the doors open, and there's one of the administrators, and she looks at my mom and says, "Ruth, it's okay. Chaucer's okay." We were waiting to get on the elevator, and the doors open, and there's Chaucer. And I reached over to grab him, and he fell into my hands. So he's outside. She said he's outside doing his business. He had a little cough for a little while, as you might imagine. But I looked at my mom and said, "Mom, I got to get another leash for Chaucer now. I cut this one." And so I went to PetSmart, and I looked at the leashes, and I looked at the salesperson. I said, "So does this leash reach 3 floors?" So anyway, that's my story. That has nothing to do with this, but it's an absolutely true story. So anyway, you know John by now. I won't read his bio, but I think what's important to know about John is Trip Buckley. So I first actually got to know John through Trip. Because Trip is just a wonderful, outgoing personality. If you don't know him yet, you'll get to know him. And I said, Trip, you just have such a magnetic personality. What's the key? He said, well, Reg, there's this magnetic device. Helps with reflux, and it really just turned me into a magnetic guy. So, okay. I need that kind of personality. So I went to Dr. Lipham. I said, I just want a magnetic personality. And so he said, well, Reg, there's this little magnetic device. It'll help with your reflux. I don't know about that magnetic personality. Joel Richter says it's not part of the parcel of what goes on with reflux, but I'll do it. So I actually spent a day in John's operating room as a patient. I got this magnetic device, and every time, it's a good thing that I'm happily married, because if I weren't and I went out to try to find chicks, I'd be calling up John and saying, John, I just don't have that magnetic personality. And I've got his cell phone number, so I'd be calling him up every night. So anyway, that's our story. Kate is that wonderful wife that I have, and she has done a huge amount for this society. But she's been a nurse practitioner. We've been working together in the operating room for close to 15 years now, and just a wonderful person. And we're just delighted to have her as part of this, and I'm delighted to have her as part of my life. Dan Lister is our treasurer. Dan I've known actually from a long time ago with the American Society of General Surgeons, where we used to meet in Vail. Vail in the winter, we always met from like 9 until 3 on the ski slopes. The other times we met actually in person to talk about things. But Dan is a surgeon in Arkansas, Heber Springs. And he probably has one of the largest Barrett's populations in Arkansas. And so when we talk about this overlap of specialties and stuff, Dan does a huge amount of foregut endoscopy and treatment. Blair I've known for a long time, and Blair is just one of these genuine laid-back guys. In fact, when you think about how laid back he is, it'll make sense a little bit more if you realize that he was actually a beach bum, spent a year in Hawaii, and during high school he would sneak out at night to go surfing. So that's Blair for you. Christy is actually from Colorado, and when she was actually finishing her fellowship with Tom DeMeester, she emailed me and said, hey, I'm looking for a job in Colorado. Well, I stupidly ignored that email, and so she went on to join some other poorly known surgeons like Lee Swanstrom and Steve DeMeester and stuff in Portland, and it would have been probably a better idea had I paid attention to that email. She's just been a delight, very bright woman. Joel Richter, my first interaction with Joel Richter was when I was invited to some talk sponsored by AstraZeneca, so you can imagine it was maybe a little biased. But I was asked to talk about surgery, and Joel was asked to talk about PPIs and the treatment of foregut disease. It was a pro-con argument. And Joel got up first, and he simply said, PPIs have never killed anyone. Top that, Reg. I think he won that argument. Mimi Canto has just joined us. She's from the Philippines, but a therapeutic endoscopist. She's not here tonight because she's down in Mexico. I don't know what she's doing in Mexico. I didn't ask, but she says it's a meeting. But anyway, Mimi has joined us as someone who is very involved in therapeutic endoscopy. Peter Karillis, you've met today. You know his dry sense of humor. When I first met Peter, I was a little intimidated. And so I'll have to say that Peter is a nice guy once you get to know him. But he can be a little sarcastic and a little terse at times, but really a wonderful guy and just an incredible researcher in this field. Ken Chang, you've met. I don't really need to say much more about his expertise. Just a really wonderful guy. And next year, we're going to be right sort of 10 minutes from his facility. So we're going to be doing live cases from Ken Chang's facility and probably from John's facility too, because it's nearby. So we're going to be doing live cases and also hands-on stuff. So we're going to add a little extra dimension to our course next year. Mike Smith is just a wonderful and mildly intense East Coasterner who has a lot of interest in Barrett's esophagus. And he and Felice go back a little ways, and I won't go into any stories about the two of them in terms of growing up together, except I can't remember the right Jewish word for it, so they went to Bible school together. Yeah, I know, temple school. So Dave Katska, you heard today. Anyway, Dave is just a wonderful gentleman and just an incredible researcher over the years. Raina, you heard talk today, and I think the ability to listen to both sides of the story is something that she has probably far more than many other people that I've seen, and we're delighted to have her on the board. Lee, you know about it, almost needs no introduction. Except to say that I found a younger picture of him and the hair is a little different at that point in time. And then Bob Gans has joined us also on the board, an incredible endoscopist who's been involved in interventional procedures over the years. So the other thing that I just wanted to talk about was technology and medicine. And you know, most of the time I come to meetings like this and someone gets up and says, please go visit the exhibition hall and thank the sponsors for making this meeting possible. To me, that doesn't even get beyond the very surface of things. You couldn't have eaten dinner tonight without technology. You couldn't have eaten without a fork that was manufactured somewhere, designed by someone. We cannot practice medicine without technology. And obviously, technology cannot practice medicine without us. And so I think when I look at it, we need to find ways to build synergy through that confluence that we have. And the ability to bring GIs and surgeons together in this field, I think, especially as John Lipham has alluded to, this confluence that we're seeing between technologies, I think is just something we are really excited about in terms of working with technology to move things ahead. So, Trip,